Hey everyone, Lauren here, and we are going to make a layout using the July Kitaholic Kits. So I've got the main and the mixed media kit, and I've got these leftover triangles that are from the original Vicky Booten pattern paper that I've now made two layouts. So there's the process videos are up, and then this third one is using just these cream pieces that are left. So there's all these cream triangles that were scattered through the paper, and now I've left them all as a collective, and they've got some mixed media on them and some other little detail to it, and they looked really nice. I decided I would use them as like a pinwheel, and I do like it on this pattern paper, but I don't think I like it enough, so I do change it up in a little while. So I'm just going to distress the edges of the triangle. So I'm just finding my distress tool. I know some people have a different type of distress tool, or they open their scissors and use the blade of their scissors, and there's some kind of like a nail file or something, or it looks like a nail file maybe, that people can distress with. But whatever you've got and feel comfortable to use is the best. If you don't have anything, you could always just scrunch the paper up and then put it back down. I've done that before, where you've scrunched the paper to get texture. But can you see how now that looks like it's 3D and it's popping off the page and gives that different look to what the other paper is doing at the moment, in terms of it being more visible rather than 2D flat to the page. So we're going to skip through because we don't want to sit here and watch it me distress a billion triangles. That it ain't going to be fun. So on it goes, and we're going to come back and they're all going to be done, and I am going to work on a mixed media background instead. So I do put them on there and thinking, I wonder if it'll pop off the white enough, but of course it doesn't. So instead I'm going to use the paint. I do pull the packaging from these stickers because one, the stickers are nearly finished, and two, the packaging was really close. And I'm going to put it on to there, put some colour. Normally you would add the colour to the packaging, then the water on top, and then, mix it. But of course, I did it all backwards today and changed it up. So I'm just going to spread the colour on to the background. Here, there, and everywhere. Just move the paper. Move the paper to make the colour move. And I should have left it at this area, like this amount of paint. But spoiler alert, I ruin it in terms of it being right for this pinwheel look by adding way too much colour all over the background. So I'm just going to give it a quick dry. And then here's where I add some more colour. And it doesn't look bad, it's just not going to work for the pinwheel. It needs something bigger and to cover the bulk of the middle. So again, just adding water to the paint so that it can spread around. And then you can see how much colour now is going on. And very simple this technique is, but it's very, very effective. You can see at the beginning, you can be a little bit more subtle, and then this time I've got it very striking and filling up the background. So I do grab out another one just because I've got a whole pile of paint here, another paper, cardstock. So I'm going to just water that paint down, and then I'm literally going to put splatters onto it. I do pick up a chunk of colour and tilt my brush so that it forms into big droplets, and then I'm flicking it so that it gives little splatters. Now I'm sort of doing more from the top right to the bottom left in a bit of a diagonal, and then it sort of forms into that corner. So it's basically half of the layout that ends up with splatters. And I really like the difference of the big splatters and the small splatters happening. It's very cool. So I don't know, like there's not much to say because obviously I'm just splattering, but I wanted to keep it in there to show you. Sometimes I'm being a bit random, and other times like this I'm grabbing big dobs of colour and just touching the paintbrush lightly to the paper so that the colour transfers into a blob. Just trying to even out. If when you look at it and your eye's drawn to a white space, then that's where you know you need to add some more. Just having a play with the pieces, the triangles back on there to see how it looks. Decide whether I want to use the ink splatters. I have dried it with my heat gun, this one and the Packaging Technique one. And here I'm just going to try it on the Packaging Technique, but like I said, I don't use that. I am going to add some more colour ink splatters. So we got these paints in the kit, in the mixed media kit, along with some Vicky Booten stencils. So that was really helpful because the colours are a perfect match. And we've got heaps of paint, so you don't feel like you have to be stingy when you're playing. So again, adding the water, that just changes the consistency so that the splatters come very nicely. You can definitely splatter without adding water. It just becomes thicker splats on the paper. So it just depends on what type of look you're looking for. So I added some more yellow paint because it had thinned out so much and the colour was not going to be bold when it dried onto the paper. So that's something to consider when it's sort of like mixing your palette, isn't it? Just, I guess, changing the texture. So on it goes. Now I do get some splatters in the white space, not heaps, and it is yellow, so it's not as obvious, but that's because you can see as such my layout is upside down to my hand, and when I turned it around it's quite easy to not overspray and splatter into the white space. So you can see big splatters and little splatters here, there and everywhere, sort of just trying to even it up. And the best way to even it up is when you look and when you first look and your eyes are drawn to a white space or a space where there's lots of blue, then that's where you need to add different colour. Again, dried it off in between to make sure that the colours don't blend, and on goes the pink. It's really just a lot of fun. I could sit here all day and do this ink splatters with the paintbrush. It's very, very cathartic, very peaceful. So again, just some big splats, some little splats. I had a little, like a hair or something on my brush. It was bothering me. I don't think it was affecting the splatters. It was just bothering me because I was looking at my paintbrush. So just getting the colour even throughout, and then I'll be able to play with the pinwheel, the photo and the embellishments. So just remember to dry in between. Otherwise your colour is going to blend and you'll end up with green and purple whether you wanted to or not. Here we go. So just going to give that all a clean up, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have just put a little bit of drying in there so I could remind you, but I've reminded you enough, I'm sure. So I'm just going to have a play with getting this on to the background. This is the way it's going to stand up, and then you can see that these triangles stand out, but they're still a bit blur. They don't really stand out that well. Like, it sort of, you know, defeats the purpose of having this big cluster, this big item. And so I have a little thought that I could use this bright orange pattern paper. So I just cut some triangles, and I would never be able to do that ever again. They are the perfect size, and I just randomly cut them. So I was thinking maybe I could make another pinwheel and have it sitting over here, and have, you know, maybe another smaller one somewhere else, but that's just not the right, that's, yeah, no. So instead I layer them up, and have them overhanging each other so that they give like a border, but it's like it's a double layered pinwheel. You know, the pinwheel that we all wanted as a kid. They were so popular when I was young. Yeah, they're not around as much anymore, are they? Anyway, I was one short, so I had to cut another one. And I measured, because now I'm like, oh, they're the perfect size, and I don't want to stuff it up and ruin and not have one to layer and everything else is layered. So I'm going to go with this photo of my son with his face painted. The airport had an open day many years ago. As you can tell, the photo is old in terms of both of my children are teenagers in high school now. So I'm pretty committed on the pinwheels, but I'm just going to leave them there for a second and work on backing my photo. So I've kept the white border around the photo, and now I'm just going to add a full blue mat with all four sides. And I just need a little bit to lift it from the background and separate it from the pinwheel embellishment. But I didn't want to have heaps. So you can see here I'm putting it back on, even though it's only got the one pattern paper mount, just because I was thinking I don't want to overwhelm it. Got this little off-cut piece, makes it the perfect size in terms of the ripped edge, and it overhangs a little bit of the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to use this polka dot with the mixed media pattern paper to bring in a bit more of the cream and then bring in some spots of colour. So that's going to be, again, a full four-sided mat. I think in the last video I was just talking about how I don't always do that, but bam, we break the rules. So I'm liking that. We don't need heaps of what do you call it, pattern paper layers behind the photo this time. This is plenty. So I'm going to commit to that pink strip down the side there, and that's going to be my photo for now. And then I'm going to, I believe, stick down the pinwheel. So I don't make you watch all of it, but I'm going to show you a little bit, because I stick down the orange flat to the pattern paper. So I'm just using the double-sided tape, just putting that there, and then I just grab a little chunk of foam tape and I put the cream coloured triangle up on the fun foam. I did have to, you know how it is when you lay something down and then you're gluing it, they all become a little bit different. I did have to have a little play with positioning, but it wasn't too hard. There we go. Now, the fact that the cream is up on fun foam means I only have to put, well, it's up on foam tape, I guess. I have to put fun foam behind the photo so that it nestles in there nicely, but only to the right side, because there is a bit of fun foam under that cream, and I'm going to double layer it so that it sits very perfectly there. There we go, and then I'm going to use these little offcuts to stick up that embellishment that's going to go into the middle. So wet glue, because that's always the easiest with fun foam. They're just going to nestle underneath the little points of the triangle, and then the second layer of fun foam is going to go on top of it. And then that's just going to sit very, very neatly. Ta-da-ta-da! I do have to hold it a little bit because the wet glue takes a little while to dry, but not like hours, just a couple of seconds, a few moments, a few minutes. However, you can always put something on it to hold it down. I think I even did put some sticky tape, a roll of tape, and then like the glue or something to hold those two pieces down after holding it with my hand. So there we go, we've got a big nice embellishment cluster in terms of the pinwheel, and then we've got a few pattern paper layers behind the photo. And then we're just going to work on some finishing touches. Starting with outlining the triangles. I was thinking just to do the orange, but I go around and do the orange and then I go back in and do the cream. I do have to be careful because there's only literally one little piece of fun foam in the middle of those cream coloured pieces. So I ripped the edge here. There was so much going on in the left with the embellishment, with the pinwheel embellishment, that I had to have something on the right to rest your eyes as such and draw you across to the other side of the layout. So I just literally ripped the edge carefully because I am being a little bit purposeful, and then I'm just going to use more of that orange pattern paper to fill that in, just using double-sided tape on the edge of the rip, and then I'm going to line up the edge of the orange paper with the edge of the cardstock so that we have a straight line. A little bit of tape overhanging, so I'm just pulling that up. Otherwise it'll stick to my table. There we go. So that looks nice. I'm just going to ruffle up the white paper so that you can see that there's texture going on there and that it is layered rather than part of the just flat part of the background. Okay, so we're going to add some embellishments. We don't need heaps, but of course I do add enough, plenty. Other people would not add as much, I feel, but that's okay. You do what you feel comfortable with, and then that's going to be what you love. If you do something I'm comfortable with or something I fully love and without taking into consideration what you thought about it, then you're going to have a page that I love and maybe that you don't. So take inspiration, take some mojo, but do what you love and feel comfortable. So we've got these, I'll get off my high horse, which really I don't need to be on. We've got these little paint tubes that have got some little sprinkling of paint hanging out, and I'm considering using that or considering using this box of crayons. I don't use the box of crayons, but I am going to use some of these phrase stickers, and I decide to pull away that crayons and just stick with the tubes of paint to the bottom left. There we go. And then I do pull out, I do find the third little paint tube, there's a green one, and that's going to nestle underneath and look really nice. So I'm just going to add the title. There we go. I'm going to add celebrate and then the ampersand and then remember. It's going to be on top of the photo as well as under the photo. And then I'm going to include this little binder clip. And then the other embellishments are way too big, so they're not going to work. But I do pull out the stickers to remind myself to see if any of them are going to work. So just committing to the paint tubes now. I really like how they nestle there. And then I'm going to use my new tweezers from the Kitaholic Kits shop to add the title. So you can see how quick and easy it is. Just pick them up with the tweezers, and then because they've got that little side edge, you can have your hand to the side and see the positioning without having to change your position of your head or look closer or anything like that. So there we go. Adding the rest of the title. I do put the ampersand there, but then I move it to the left of the word remember afterwards. Just I think it nestles in nicely there. There we go. And then there's not too much more to it. There's just the sticker sheets, so I'm having a look to see what could work. Often when I put like that ripped edge and like where I put that orange paper to the right right top. I often put a cluster on that little section, but today the cluster was not going to work, and I really like that it just sits there on its own merit without having to have extraness onto it. So added some of these little clear stickers. There's some arrows and whatnot, and they're on there, and I'm really like, there's a few circles with some words on these stickers, so that works really nicely. I'm considering using this tab sticker. It needs to be on white cardstock so that it's not see-through, but I don't want to bother with it, and really the clusters were not coming to the side, so it wasn't working anyway. But here is my layout. I'm just going to add a couple of lines of journaling, and then we're going to call it a day. So hopefully you've been inspired to create and get using on your kits, and have a great afternoon. Have a great time in your craft area. Bye guys.